Warren Buffett knows what he's talking about.
Don't you mean Warren Buffett?
Got it. And then what do you think the world's going to look like in 5 to 10 years when it comes to cannabis?
Yeah, that's super hard to say. I really like that question though, because I'm not looking at day-to-day fluctuations. I'm actually looking at 5 years.
Yeah.
The CEO of the second biggest US weed company, he had an interview on CNBC, and he said for the next decade, he expects his company to grow 20% annually for the next decade. So it's just really, really crazy growth rates. They did 150% this year. They're projected to do 80% next year. So it's ridiculous growth rates. And I mean, as long as regulatory environment keeps changing positively, and they have organic growth within the states they're already in, 20% is the lower end that you'd be looking at. So that was a pretty cool projection that 20% annually for 10 years is 6x from now. So it's a huge increase for sure.
Yeah, I think it's I keep saying this, but it's something that we haven't seen in a long time because there's so much pent up demand. I think a huge percentage of the population wants it to be legal. They're just kind of waiting for it to actually become legal. And who knows, I'm sure there's some speculative numbers out there about the people who do it regardless of whether it's legal or not. But the fact that you can walk down the street and get it legally without having to worry about unlawful repercussions or whatever is probably huge. And it's hard to imagine a world where it doesn't get more and more progressively legal throughout the United States. Maybe we could see that. I guess you never know, but it seems like this is my outside perspective, but people on both sides of the ball, and what I mean is, both sides of government, I think the Democratic side has always been a little bit more, we talked about it earlier, but a little bit more willing to have the conversation. But I even think the Republican side is now becoming a little bit more willing because it's a younger generation that's kind of coming through. And I think that's an interesting thing to see. You see more conservative congressmen and women that are, advocating for it, which is something that I don't think you'd ever see 5-10 years ago, like you talked about.
Yeah. And I mean, even if you look at the trend of when they do polls and they see what percentage of the US supports it, it's just a straight line up, and we're at 60+% people that are in support for it. So it's just every metric in cannabis that you could want to be going in the right way is kind of going in the right way. General consensus, the population's thoughts on it, states legalizing, everything that you want to be going up is kind of going up right now. So it's kind of a cool transition that's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I think getting on that investing train early could definitely be beneficial. It's just probably about finding the right thing. So that's probably some good information that you're giving out on your channel.